This is why Sacramento Kings fans feel cursed and like the world is against them. Just 2 years ago, the Kings finally ended their playoff drought, finally gave Sacramento something to be hopeful and confident in again. And now the Sacramento Kings are just plain depressing. We'll break down their unsurprising blowout loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder and the latest in the De'Aaron Fox trade rumors right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, and it's just sad. It's just depressing at this point, right? Sacramento Kings fans, we feel like we've been through it all, and to be real, being bad around the trade deadline and getting blown out by the best teams in the league is nothing new for this organization, certainly nothing new for this fan base over the last couple of decades. But, 2 years ago at this time, the Kings were 29-21. De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis were on their way to, or about to head to Salt Lake City, Utah as first-time All-Stars. And the Kings were closing in on their first playoff appearance in 16 years. Fast forward 2 years later, all the vibes are dead. The star player wants out. And the Sacramento Kings just got absolutely rinsed by the number one team in the West, the Oklahoma City Thunder, 144-110, in a game where the players were clearly and have clearly been, and I don't even blame them at this point, distracted by all of the drama going on with De'Aaron Fox right now. Really, the players didn't even look embarrassed. And to be honest with you, I don't feel like they should be, or I don't think it's I don't care that they do or don't, right? They look and feel the same way that I think much of the fan base kind of looks and feels right now, just resigned to the realities of the state of this organization at this point, right? The Kings dipped their toe into the pool of competency, got a little bit wet, and said, nah, we're good. Let's go back into the old reliable dysfunction and just disaster. This season has been, the Kings have taken us on some roller coasters before, but this season is the roller coaster to end all roller coasters, the roller coasters to make even those of us with the strongest of immune systems hurl all over ourselves like courtside throw-up guy from a couple of seasons ago inside of the Golden One Center. I feel like we're all that dude at this point with how this team is playing. From the 6-game losing streak to the 7-game win streak under Doug Christie to now this. And to be completely honest with you, right? None of this has to do with Doug at all. Nothing even remotely negative in any kind of way should be said about Doug Christie. Doug is in an impossible position. It's already extremely difficult for any established head coach in the NBA. What Doug Christie is having to do right now is impossible for a first-time interim head coach. He is trying. He's like that old cartoon where there's a bunch of cracks and holes in the dam, and he's trying to use every finger he has to plug it as much as possible and trying to hold everything together and keep everybody together despite everything just going to you know what right? Doug is a phenomenal motivator. He's an incredible human being, and this is where his philosophy of just bringing guys in and loving on the guys, I think, is actually extremely important. Because while these are millionaires, professional athletes, they live very, very comfortable, lavish lifestyles. No team wants to go through or should go through what the Sacramento Kings are kind of going through at this point in time. And I think they need kind of to be brought in a little bit and be embraced and like, this sucks. We're going to try and get through it together. But no one can blame any of these players, any of these coaches, anybody on this team right now, anybody on this road trip currently in Oklahoma City or right now on a plane to Minnesota. I don't think anybody should blame them for feeling the effects, feeling the impact of everything that's happened over the last week. Really, if the Kings keep playing like this poorly, where they played terribly in their loss the other night, but this game in particular, I mean, against Oklahoma City, totally unsurprising blowout loss. Like, I went into this game with absolutely zero expectations of anything good happening. The Kings battled for the first quarter, made it entertaining, and then everything just fell apart in the second quarter, and the Kings never really had a chance. So not even a little bit remotely surprised by the Kings getting blown out by the Oklahoma City Thunder, especially when we knew the Thunder were coming into this game after losing to the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, the Kings, I knew, were walking into a buzzsaw tonight. And it was just amplified by everything that's going on around the organization. But if the Kings keep playing like this, right, the front office might feel like they have no choice but to move De'Aaron Fox before the trade deadline on February 6th. And maybe you're at that point too. I'll have more on that. We'll talk more about the latest in the situation with De'Aaron Fox and the timing of a De'Aaron Fox trade a little bit later on. But I mean, it's glaring to me, the gap, the canyon between how established the Oklahoma City Thunder are, not just as a great basketball team and with wins and things like that, but just the construction of this roster, right? Compared to where the realities of where the Sacramento Kings are at. It's not even close. Now, this game, I don't think, was an accurate fight between these two teams, given all of the circumstances of what's going on with the Sacramento Kings right now. But even if the Kings weren't dealing with this, it's still pretty obvious, especially when it comes to roster construction and just team play, how big of a difference there is between where the Oklahoma City are at, and obviously where the Kings are trying to get to, and then where the Kings are at currently. Like, OKC's the truth, man. They have a total star in SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 29 points tonight, 9 assists. Incredible role players like Lou Dort, who's a nuts defender who also hit 6 threes tonight. He's shooting over 40% from three-point range this season. Aaron Wiggins, 41 points tonight, also 6 three-pointers. He had a phenomenal game. Alex Caruso didn't even play, but if he did, he would have kicked the Kings' ass. Isaiah Hartenstein is filling in right now, and he's been awesome for OKC as their starting center, but filling in for Chet Holmgren, who's out. Like, the Thunder aren't even at full strength, and they're already this good. This team is legit. The roster, it is legitimate. And when you see Sacramento's roster and the roster construction against a team like OKC, it's really glaring what the Kings lack, where this front office has failed in terms of building this roster. I mean, the Oklahoma City bench outscored the Kings bench 36-24 in this game, but that included almost 6 minutes of garbage time where Doug Christie emptied his bench at the end of the game. In reality, the Kings had 0 bench points at halftime, and they had 6 total bench points from their 3 main bench guys. Keon Ellis, Kevin Huerter both had 3 points. Trey Lyles had 0. Right? We've known depth is an issue with this Kings team, that this Kings team has no bench. And they've been killed by opposing benches pretty much on a nightly basis. But again, you look at the depth of this Thunder team, even dealing with the injuries that they're dealing with, doesn't matter. Their depth is glaringly different from the Sacramento Kings, which just points to another complete failure on the count of this front office. And then this is the second time in the last 4 games that the Kings have given up 140 or more points. 2 times in 4 games. That to me is the clearest indication of where this team is at right now. Right? That to me is heart. You mean to tell me a Doug Christie-led basketball team is giving up 140 points in 2 out of 4 games? Like that's this team doesn't have fight right now. Right? They're exhausted. That's what I said the last episode or after the last game. The Kings are emotionally exhausted. They're just spent, completely over the state of this organization right now. And of course, De'Aaron Fox is right at the center of it. You can throw all your blame at De'Aaron Fox if you want. And Fox does have to wear some of the blame for being kind of the catalyst of everything that's going wrong with this team right now. I don't think anybody in that locker room is hating on De'Aaron Fox in any kind of way. They're going to continue to support him, and they're aware that the business is the business. But everything that's happened with Fox over the last week has completely taken every last drop or every last bit of wind out of the Sacramento Kings sails. All the good vibes from that 7-game win streak completely gone. Right? The Doug Christie magical turnaround is dead. Very quickly dead. And De'Aaron Fox and all these trade rumors are at the center of it. We'll talk about the latest that I've heard in the De'Aaron Fox trade rumors, and we'll talk about the dilemma of when to trade Fox. Do you do it at the trade deadline or before the trade deadline here in the next few days? Do you wait until the summertime? We'll talk about it. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook, whether it's predicting who will score the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on who will win the coin toss. FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're one of those people that's like reluctantly watching the Super Bowl, you hate the Eagles, you hate the Chiefs, and here we are again, a rematch from a couple of years ago. Well, let FanDuel help you make it at least a little more exciting for you. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what is happening on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for you to continue having fun and making money on the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake, if you ask me. Download the app and head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5 and you could win $200 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, so here's the latest from what I understand of where the De'Aaron Fox trade conversations and rumors and everything are at. As of right now, things are very, very quiet. Right? Things have calmed down. Last week, we were close a couple of times. Right? Negotiations got pretty far along with whether it was just the San Antonio Spurs involving multiple other teams, the Kings receiving a lot of offers for De'Aaron Fox, right? The Kings have been in active, very active conversations for pretty much the entire week. And as of right now, it's not that anything is dead or anything like that, but we're in kind of a calm period, a lull, whether it's things that the Sacramento Kings are discussing, some holdups or sticking points between negotiations between the Kings and other teams. Like, that's just where we're at right now. It can change at any minute. Right? It could change as of now, as I'm recording this podcast. It could change with after how the Kings performed. There could be phone calls being had and conversations reigniting right now. Every trade is a game of leverage, but especially these high profile, completely in the spotlight trades like this for a star like De'Aaron Fox. It's a game of leverage. And you have to understand, pretty much the only leverage, or the main card that the Sacramento Kings have to play in this leverage battle when trading De'Aaron Fox is time, right? Time is on their side because Fox is not expiring this year. They're not going to lose him or have him walk away this summer. They still have him under contractual control for 1 more year after this. Now, I think the writing is completely on the wall, right? Whereas earlier in the week, I would have said, hey, maybe there's still a chance to salvage things. I think that's dead. I think we're just past the point of no return. Certainly with this front office currently being here. Maybe there could be a inkling of hope if Vivek Ranadive does what he should do and fire Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox and start over with a new front office. Maybe, just maybe, there could be an inkling of hope, but I think we're even past that point, right? Fox is out of here. Fox is gone. He wants to get out. It's time to move on. Like, we know this. But the Kings, like, and understand this too, Fox and Rich Paul of Clutch Sports, they want this to happen as soon as possible because of financial situations, right? A max contract is dead, right? And the Kings are the only one that can offer Fox a max contract. That's dead because Fox isn't making All-NBA. We know this. So a max contract is dead. So now the next best thing that you can do is sign an extension, just a standard max extension. Well, Fox can only sign an extension with a new team 6 months after he is acquired by that team. So Fox wants to be traded right now because 6 months from now is the offseason and he can sign it and go into next year. If Fox is traded this summer, 6 months from that point is at least a couple of months into the season. Or he's playing at that point. Now, God forbid anything happens early on in the season where he gets hurt or anything like that, but there's just less security at that point. So Rich Paul and De'Aaron Fox want to get moved as soon as possible so they can start that timer, sign an extension as soon as possible with, they want the San Antonio Spurs and go from there, right? That's where we're at here. And the Kings need to juggle the understanding of that and what Fox wants and trying to do right by Fox. Also deal with the fact that Rich Paul is going to sour other teams on potentially trading for De'Aaron Fox by threatening that Fox will not re-sign with those teams. And the San Antonio Spurs are going to try to lowball the Sacramento Kings as much as possible in deals. Say, I'm not including Stephon Castle, or this player's not available, or these picks are not available. They're going to try and lowball the Kings as much as possible because they're trying to use the leverage of the Spurs being the only real team to trade with because of De'Aaron Fox's requests and Rich Paul's requests. But the Kings need to make the right decision for them. It sucks right now. And if the Kings were to hold on to De'Aaron Fox through the remainder of the season, the trade deadline passes and Fox is still on this team, there's a very good chance that this could suck for the rest of the season. Vibes could be off. They could be bad. I'm not saying De'Aaron Fox would deliberately tank. Maybe he gets the surgery he needs and just sits the rest of the season out. I have no idea. The vibes might suck and the Kings might be doomed to miss the playoffs again if De'Aaron Fox is not traded at the trade deadline. But as much as it sucks, short-term suck and short-term bad vibes is better than long-term doom, potentially, that could happen from the Sacramento Kings rushing into a De'Aaron Fox trade or just accepting the best they can get from lowball offers or whatever at this trade deadline just to get a deal done. And you have to understand, like, the front office perspective here, right? Monty and Wes are on the hot seat. They are. I know that for a fact. Monty and Wes are on the hot seat. I think that seat should be absolutely scorching. I don't think they should be comfortable sitting down. They have to be standing up right now. If they make a bad trade at this deadline with De'Aaron Fox, they're going to be fired. They know this. If they do nothing at the deadline, they're probably going to be fired. Right? Especially if the Kings miss the playoffs. They shouldn't and really can't feel confident at all with making any kind of move that has long-term implications behind it, right? Trading for a young developmental project or trading for a lot of draft picks that they could hopefully cash in on down the road or make selections in future drafts or whatever, right? They can't feel confident that they're going to see out the payoff of these long-term deals. They absolutely shouldn't. And Vivek Ranadive, Kings owner Vivek Ranadive, who does have to give the final say and sign off on everything, he should be very careful with agreeing to and allowing a desperation move from Monty or Wes in an attempt to save their jobs, right? Because again, if they get this wrong, this could have lasting 5+ year implications, negative implications on this organization that Vivek and ownership and Kings fans and this organization will have to deal with, that Monty and Wes won't have to because they'll be long gone by then, right? Here's the latest of what I've heard. And a lot of this is information from yesterday. There is a route to be considered where the Kings prioritize getting picks from the San Antonio Spurs over young talent like a Stephon Castle, where they say, okay, you don't want to trade Castle, you don't want to trade your best young pieces, whatever, make the salaries work and give us a plethora of the first round picks that you have. Like everybody has their eyes on that 2025 Atlanta Hawks pick, rightfully so. So there is a route that the Kings accept more picks than actual talent in a trade like this, which doesn't really make sense from the standpoint of the Kings want to be as competitive as possible right now, except for the fact that they can then use those picks immediately to try and target another big fish, another big name that the San Antonio Spurs just quite frankly don't have, other than Victor Wembanyama, but he ain't going nowhere, right? So it's my belief and it's my understanding that the Sacramento Kings are big star or big name hunting right now. That they're making calls to other teams, whether it's two different deals, the picks trade for Fox to San Antonio, and then using those picks and whatever players and salary or whatever to go out and get another one of these players, or it's a 3 or 4 team trade or whatever to land another name out there, right? Names have been floated around, like a Zach LaVine is a name that's been floated around. I think there's some validity to that. I haven't heard anything that suggests like a Brandon Ingram, although it's certainly possible. I don't think Bradley Beal is on the table at all for the Sacramento Kings. I think Wes and Monty know if they trade for Bradley Beal, they're going to be fired. Terrible dead money. And like Brad Beal he's not washed, but like we know the circumstances of Brad Beal at this point. You're certainly not using draft picks to go out and get Brad Beal and take on that money. That doesn't make any sense. So it's my belief that the Kings are star hunting and big name hunting, and that could kill two birds with one stone for this front office, right? It could save their jobs in terms of getting a name, replacing De'Aaron Fox with a name, and keeping the Kings competitive this season. Could kill two birds with one stone. I'm staying true with what I believe should happen. My opinion still stands on what I would do if I were in this situation, if I were Vivek Ranadive or advising Vivek Ranadive. Even if the rest of this season absolutely sucks, I'm holding on to De'Aaron Fox through the trade deadline, keeping him the rest of the season. I'm firing Monty and Wes, getting a new front office in this summer, trusting them to make the decision with Fox. Again, even if it's already gone, even if it's already done, so be it. Like if Fox has no hope of coming back, if I have to punt this season to get a better front office in here that I trust more to make the right move with De'Aaron and not completely screw over this organization for the next 5 to 10 years, that's the route that I still would go. And look, there is a chance too where if the Kings decide they want to go that route or express to everybody else, hey, this is the route that we're going to go, maybe, just maybe, the San Antonio Spurs go, okay, wait, hold on. We'll include Stephon Castle. We'll include these pieces that we weren't initially going to include because we don't want to get into a bidding war with other teams that will suddenly become players or potentially be more involved in a De'Aaron Fox trade this summer compared to at this trade deadline. That's a possibility. I'm not predicting that, but the final hours of the trade deadline could be interesting if the Kings declare this is what they're going to do and the Spurs, I'm not going to say they're going to panic by any means, but Fox is what they've been waiting for. And if they don't get him now, there's a chance that they might lose a bidding war to teams that have better pieces, a la the Houston Rockets. Let's say the Rockets flame out in the playoffs and realize, we need a star caliber point guard. Now suddenly they're willing to trade more win now young pieces that are more ideal to the Sacramento Kings than what the San Antonio Spurs have. It's a risk that the Kings have to take. It's also a risk that the Spurs would have to take. But that's the route that I would go if I were the Sacramento Kings right now. So after tonight's loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Kings are 1-4 over the course of this 6-game road trip. I'd say it's their longest road trip of the year, and technically it is, but they have another 6-game road trip coming up later on in the season. So 2 different 6-game road trips. This one's been a disaster. Normally this team is good on the road. They've been atrocious, but we know everything that's happening around the team right now. They wrap up that road trip against the Minnesota Timberwolves on Monday night. Now, this game is interesting because a couple things. One, the Kings are barely holding on to the 10th seed right now. They're tied with the Warriors in 10th and 11th. Now, they're ahead of the Warriors because of the tiebreaker, because they played one time and the Kings have beaten the Warriors once. But they have the same exact records, same exact win percentage. The Kings are just in 10th. The Warriors are in 11th. I haven't checked, but I think the Warriors probably play tomorrow. So if they win tomorrow, they have a chance just to leapfrog the Kings outright. But I'm not entirely sure on that. I haven't checked the schedule. Regardless, the Timberwolves right now are in 7th. They're 2.5 games ahead of the Sacramento Kings in 7th. And the T-Wolves and Kings have played 3 times, and the T-Wolves, I believe, are 2-1 against Sacramento this season. I want to double check on that because I think that's correct. This season's honestly been a blur at this point. So I want to make sure that the Kings have actually beaten the Timberwolves once. I know they've lost to them twice, both the season opener and the heartbreaker in overtime when Fox scored 60 points. Yes, but they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota on November 27th. So they could win and split the season series with Minnesota. Then tiebreaker implications would come into play. If they lose, they have no chance at a potential tiebreaker with the T-Wolves. It feels weird talking about tiebreakers right now with the trajectory of this Kings team and where they're at, but still, I mean, you never know where the Kings and T-Wolves could end up, and that tiebreaker could be significant. So there is importance to the Kings winning this game for potential playoff picture stuff if the Kings are even in the playoff picture come the end of the season. After this, they have one home game remaining before the trade deadline. In fact, it's the day before the trade deadline. They take on the Orlando Magic on February 5th. The deadline is February 6th. I don't know if De'Aaron Fox is still going to be on the team at that point. It's going to be interesting to see what the ovation will be like, especially if the Kings get their ass kicked by the Minnesota Timberwolves, which, the way they've been playing, it might be likely. The vibes inside the Golden One Center for that game are going to be really interesting. What kind of reaction is De'Aaron Fox going to get? Not that he's going to get booed by any means. I don't think we're ever going to get to that point, but will Kings fans try to show their love and appreciation for him in a desperate attempt to get him to stay, or will they understand this is the last time maybe we're ever seeing De'Aaron Fox play a home game for the Kings and we're going to give him the send-off he deserves? I have no idea. But that will be a very weird night inside the Golden One Center if De'Aaron Fox is still on this team. And my gut feeling right now is that De'Aaron Fox will still be on this team at that point. But things can change in a hurry. Things are quiet right now, but tomorrow, doesn't matter if it's a Sunday, tomorrow it could pick right back up. Monday it could pick right back up, even with the Kings playing in Minnesota. No idea. We'll just keep riding this roller coaster together and try not to puke out every last bit of our stomach's contents with everything that's been going on. I appreciate your support. I mean, if you want to weigh in on what you think the Kings should do with Fox, the state of this team right now, hit me up at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section below. Follow me on Twitter or Blue Sky at MattGeorgeSack. I'm posting whatever I'm hearing, whatever conversations I'm having, any kind of rumors or anything that I'm staying on top of. I'm posting a lot of it there. Any updates, real-time things that are going on, I'm posting it there. Any information that I can bring you about this De'Aaron Fox saga, I will try to bring to you the best of my ability to keep you as informed as possible. This is a monumental move for the Kings. Certainly the biggest move or biggest trade deadline since trading DeMarcus Cousins. But I think this is going to end up being like the biggest move the Kings made. This might be a top 3 move of all time for the Sacramento Kings, up there with trading Weber away and trading Mitch Richmond to get Chris Webber. That's how significant this is for the history and the future of this franchise and organization. So we'll see how it plays out. No matter what, we'll keep it right here on Locked On Kings, and I'll have everything for you that I can. We'll get through this together. It sucks right now. Hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll either hit the wall or burst on through together. Appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.